big, the Armageddon or whatever it may be. I feel like those pilots are just under so much more pressure.
Yeah,
Just
that's
like
why I usually get put in the EOS.
just like in Real EVE Online, the little frigates matter. They matter so much.
And like boxing, I actually have kind of struggled with that a lot when I was playing on TQ. I think that people's natural entry into PvP is often through frigates, but they're so fast and unforgiving that it's actually really hard to be an expert frigate pilot. It's actually, even though it's more expensive, it's in a lot of ways easier to learn to fly ships like an EOS or a battleship, because it just is slower. Everything is like, there's more time to make decisions. Your mistakes don't punish you quite as quickly, and that's definitely true in the tournament.
Yeah. On the same token, if you get good in the frigates, you're going to be good in pretty much anything.
Yeah,
I learned in Tyrannuses, and it's much easier. I don't fly frigates anymore because I just don't have I don't want the stress, but that's what I learned in, so I had good instincts moving on into bigger ships later on.
We can actually bring the results screen up on the stream to see what happened, and here you can see the amount of damage taken for the teams. And the burst...
Yeah, by a Trousered Eagle there. He did finally die, and he took 26,000 damage.
Wow, that is very impressive.
In a ship that only cost 12 million ISK.
Super efficient.
Yep.
Right.
Super
Only 12 million ISK in 2 points.
I mean, I think the notable thing is you compare that to some of the other ships that died. The Cerberus took, what was that, 11,000 damage? I mean, you're looking at 14,000, 11,000. EOS took 30-something thousand. I can't quite see from here. 22,000 on a Gila. So, I mean, that's hack level, at least. Damage taken. That's really incredible stuff.
And in case that doesn't make sense to you guys, it's because he's getting repped back a lot of it. Right. So he's taking the damage and then getting it repped back by the other burst and just keeping that going for a really long time. And over the course of the match, he's absorbing tons of damage that could have gone somewhere else.
Well, and then the other thing to point out is that's actual raw damage numbers. What that doesn't account for is small signature radius. So drones are effectively hitting for less damage as it may be.
Right.
But we should talk about Afterlife.
Yeah, the next match is actually ready, so let's stop talking about the Hero Burst, even though it's awesome. The Afterlife Dot versus Coven is next, and the Afterlife banned out the Tengu and the Loki, while Coven banned down the Armageddon and the Ishtar. I will need to do predictions really quick just to go on field and let Fozzie and the Pothny talk a little bit about what's going on, but what are your predictions?
I'm going to go with Afterlife. I think they have the advantage here. I don't really know much about both these teams, but I have confidence in Afterlife. So.
Yep, I'm going to go with Afterlife too.
Me too.
I'm going with Coven because I've met these people in real life, and I know what they can do.
They're the Polish guys.
Yes, they are. Let's go.
Welcome back, one and all, to this next match in the 12th Alliance Tournament. This is Afterlife versus Coven, brought to you by CCP Fozzie and Apothny. And we have two very similar cores on the field here, but with some very big differences in the way they've decided to run their support. So Afterlife has brought EOS Scimitar, Triple Lorenzo, as has come to be expected. But then they've gone Triple Celestis, Jaguar, and Double Mala. So that is a lot of damps, including a lot of very long-range damps in the Celestises.
Yep, Coven have brought a Nighthawk for links rather than the Ace. They've got a Simi with their own Triple Lorenzo. They've got the Serb, 3 Worms, as we've come to expect, the Mullises and the Crows. Now, I'm very interested to know why Afterlife thinks Celestis are good in a shield setup, because personally, I think they're terrible.
I mean, as long as they don't take a ton of damage, Celestis are never going to tank a ton.
Yeah, I mean, when you're shield tanking a Celestis, you can either tank or have damps. You need 2 really important jobs from the same set of slots. We do have the match starting.
We'll see how they hold up.
Spread across the Coven team. Whoa, tons of damps
Afterlife
coming from
has won the damp war, look at that control bar. The control bar for Afterlife is big and it's full, and Coven isn't applying anything. So at the moment, Afterlife has the ability to basically dictate this match. It's especially useful against the Scimitar, which won't be able to rep out to long range, and to that Nighthawk of Coven, which is using heavy missiles, so therefore has pretty long damage projection range, but can't use it while it's super damped.
Coven currently hate their lives. I want to see what they're doing. It looks like they're trying to pull away. They're just balling up. Like just letting those drones come into them.
One thing Coven will be able to shoot is the drones. They're might take a while to lock them, but this swarm of drones coming from Afterlife, Coven is doing a lot similar thing to what Waffles did in the last match. They're pulling back. They're actually going to get around a microjump unit, and they are shooting drones, and they're going to try to reduce some of the DPS that's coming from Afterlife.
Hopefully they don't follow Waffles too much, because we all know how that ended.
Meanwhile, Afterlife is going right after a Gila. So Afterlife is primaried the Gila of Veronic there, and they've already got him into about half a shield. He is getting reps though.
Yeah, the damps have dropped from the Simi. Oh, they're back up now. I wonder if that will break the lock. The Gila is no longer repping. There we go, reps back on it. Looks
no,
like
he still has the rep effect on him, so the Scimitar definitely still has him.
That Gila is barely holding on. At the same time, XX Latvian in the Gila is painted, so it looks like that might be the next damage.
It looks like that's who they're trying to hit, but they're not being very successful yet. It looks like the drones are still trying to make their way across, but there's too many damps. And the Gila for Coven is now off the field, so that's one of the damage Gilas down. This is a great first start for Afterlife, getting the big damp war win.
One of the things I'm noticing here is that all of these Gilas aren't ever going, you know, they're only briefly approaching 1,000. They're staying at quite low speed, which implies they're just turning and revolving. They're not running away from damage, but they're still not having DPS applied to them. Not sure how that's happening now. There's another Gila of Caranto being neuted. Oh, it's taking a lot of damage. Remember that Gila's tank is active. If you lose your cap, you lose your tank.
Yes, and there it goes. He drops off the field very quickly. Afterlife is doing enough damage with these triple Gilas, with the EOS, and of course drones from the Celestis, which shouldn't be ignored. They're just able to burst right through. And of course now they've lost a Jaguar. That's probably going to be some of their EWAR off the field, some more damage, maybe some target painters, but it's not going to be crippling to them. At this point, losing 2 Gilas and a Worm is much worse than losing a couple of Jaguars.
At any point, if you're so damped, if at any point you break through those damps, because the team has invested so much in damps, you know, they're going to lose ships. But so far, the Afterlife are still keeping that advantage. Everything is still super mega ultra damped, and you know,
they're wet, if you will.
They are indeed quite wet.
Yes.
I'd say they're even wetter than the weather outside right now.
Yes, yeah, they are like Icelandic fall wet, and that can't be, it's not pleasant. I have experience with that. It is not pleasant at all. The Scimitar now is the primary for Afterlife. They are trying to knock down the Simi. That means they just won't have to damp that target anymore, and they can spread what remaining damps they have onto more people.
So many damps. It would appear that I was entirely mistaken, wrong, and idiotic in saying that Celestis are a bad idea in a shield setup. Apparently, they're the best thing since Nunny's sandwiches.
You've obviously never gone into nullsec and faced off against the fleet comp that I actually can't say on stream, but they can be very frustrating.
They can. I assumed they were armor.
They're great ships. And so, yeah, the Scimitar here dropping off the field. One of the things that we've talked about before, but maybe not in a little while, is the fact that for these E-War heavy teams you see it with ECM, also with damps, once they start knocking down enemy targets, they can focus the E-War onto fewer and fewer targets. You get a snowball effect. Basically, Afterlife's damping power gets stronger and stronger as the other team's numbers decrease.
Yeah, I think one of the things we see from the best teams in the tournament is that they really understand how much E-War they need and how much is good. They bring exactly what they need. You know, Hydra very famously love having heavy damp compositions, mixing in some jams as well. Mixing jams and damps is absolutely horrific for any pilots. We see now the final Gila for Coven dropping. I think this is kind of a story that's been told. Afterlife's victory seems secure here.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of time. Kind of amusingly, Afterlife hasn't decided to damp the Nighthawk, and the Nighthawk's the thing. The Nighthawk and the Cerberus are the things that can actually deal damage at those ranges. They're just counting on the fact that their Scimitar can still rep through a Nighthawk's worth of damage, I think. Yeah, they're just picking off frigates, and they'll be moving on. So this means Afterlife, again, like the team that we just saw from Shadow Cartel. Yes, like Shadow Cartel, Afterlife is another team that has only lost to a defending champion. They've only lost to PL in this tournament. So they're a team that I think a lot of people underestimated coming into the tournament, but did very well in that match, have done very well since. And so they're another one of these teams that are going to be kind of a terror in the losers bracket as they continue through, knocking down Coven in very convincing fashion.
I mean, when it comes to things like E-War, do you think there's ever a point when you can kind of go too heavy, because I mean we see 3 Celestis, we see 2 Maulus, and that is a lot of E-War, and it's done them very, very well in this match. Do you think that, say they come against a team like, in the next rounds, like a Hydra, a PL, a Camel, teams that we really know their stuff, do they think they'll go, that's too much damps, and we can really take advantage of it in this way?
So as long as you have a game plan for taking advantage of the control. So you can win the control war, but then you need to do something with that time that you've gained yourself, with the fact that the other team's logistics is unable to rep or anything like that. You need to actually have a plan of how you're going to take advantage of the strength of position that the damp war wins you. Same thing is true of ECM. I've seen teams bring like crazily strong ECM teams that don't have any damage, but then all you're doing is rolling a bunch of dice, and sure, you have a lot of dice to roll, but the match just never ends, and eventually you're going to lose. And the same thing will happen if you don't have DPS on a damp team. 3 healers and an EOS, though,
they'll
is a
do
lot
some
of
DPS,
damage.
I think.
Yeah, I think a lot of people may underestimate, too, the drones in the Celestis. They've enough room for 5 medium drones, can be used for medium rep drones very effectively, can be used for damage drones, ECM drones. There's a lot of really good options there. The Celestis I like a lot. The big vulnerability of them, of course, is you can lose that fast damp war to Moluses, or to any other frigate, really, to like Merlins, or to Herons, or whatever. So you need to make sure that you have a way to win the early damp war as well. So triple Celestis, double Molus, I think is a great damp core. That is a good way to win the control war against almost every team.
Yeah, I mean, we had the ship bans coming in, the Tengu, the Loki. Afterlife did not want to see a shield Tinker. We say that damps typically are exceptionally good against Tinkers, so what do you think their logic was in this?
It's possible that they just didn't want to see the shield Tinker plus Marauder, though they could have banned out the Marauder to get that, because that would be something they'd have trouble with. We saw when Hydra brought out the crazy intense damp teams, they banned out actually both of the shield Marauders, which is another way to go about that. It's also possible that they're afraid of a team like Tess, where there's just so many pilots, they can't damp all of them, and thanks to drone assist, you can always get somebody onto target.
Yeah, I mean, as we saw in the match, they did manage to damp everyone quite horrifically, unfortunately. There we go, the final Coven ship going down. Yeah. So it looks like the end of the match, so we will send it back to you guys on the analysis desk.
So he's gonna live to fly another day.
Because of winning with broadswords and then winning with Dominic's system.
This was a very interesting match. I'm going to come back and look at this later.
Oh no, he's so cool, but not very good.
Coven's full team of autumn wet pilots were no match against the Afterlife's big full control bar. This just shows the importance of E-War.
And raincoats.
Bring raincoats. Although I will say, it's probably not fun flying in a match where you can't lock anything.
No, I've done that before. It's not fun at all.
It is pretty miserable. So when you have Coven head Helids, which are generally kind of immune to damp, sort of, because you can assign your drones, and then someone that can lock on your team, you can just throw them out there. But the Afterlife had so many strong dams, and they won the damp war so handily that every single ship on the Coven side couldn't lock past probably 30 kilometers. So that had to be the most frustrating thing ever. They can't assign to anyone, they can't do anything. And yeah, just a really strong showing from Afterlife, who are a pretty strong team.
The other thing that happens, even if they're able to assign their DPS out to other ships, is the Scimitar can't rep anybody. So the whole team has to try to hug the Scimitar, which means they don't get as much freedom to kite and run and split that drone DPS up. So even if they were able to assign and get damage out, it still probably had a really negative impact on like their ability to mitigate damage.
Yeah, you saw that with those healers not moving very fast, and then right after they mentioned that, when there's only one left, I think he just gave up on it and said, "Forget it, I'm just going to run," because he did kick up to high speed. So obviously they had prop mods fit, they just weren't using them because of that. They did want to get out of range of the Scimitar, and Scimitar pilot's probably yelling at him, "Don't burn around, I'm going to lose range on you, lose lock on you." But
The other thing that's good about the damps, like Fozzie was saying earlier, is even if they're able to assign their drones out, there is a significant chunk of damage coming from missiles in Helicopter, and this one especially because of the Nighthawk. So there's a big piece of their damage at least that really isn't immune to the damps, even though the drones can get moved around.
But all that said, Coven didn't have like an awful setup by any means. They had what they thought would be an answer to the damps. They had their own damps. They had Molluses, but it just so happens that the Afterlife had Molluses and Celestis. So maybe if they could do that again, they just ban Celestis.
We were just talking about the importance of the support wing before we went into this match, and it's proven.
Yeah.
Like, I would say that the
Totally.
Celestis, the Celestii, whatever, and the Molluses, they sort of contributed heavily to the fact that Afterlife won.
Could be Celestes.
Yeah, absolutely. What did like instead of like on the Coven side, instead of like the points that were invested in the Celestis, what did they get?
Let's bring up the results and just see.
Ah, perfect.
That would be nice. They had the Nighthawk for the EOS. Let's see, they have Serb as well.
This is sorted so helpfully.
It's worms, it looks like.
Yeah, worms, I guess.
Yeah. Worms are generally a pretty good ship. You can even fit some utility damps in there if you really wanted to, but they're not strong enough to combat the Celestis. The one thing that we should talk about, the Afterlife Celestis pilots were actually really good. You may not have noticed it. The Coven Molluses actually broke out of lock range and damped 2 of the Celestises down, which could have been catastrophic. But the third Afterlife Celestis said, you know what, I got my bros, I'm going to stop damping whatever I'm damping and put more damps onto the Molluses so I can win the damp war back for my team, and that's exactly what happened. So there was like a 20, 30-second span in there that Coven actually could get a bunch of locks, but then they lost it.
Well, no, only with 2 Mollus on the Coven side, you really... I'm sure those worms probably had something. You probably had a few more damps spread around the team, but they just didn't have the same raw number of damps. 3 Celestis and the 3 Mollus. I mean, it's just a ton of 2 Mollus, I guess. A ton of damps. Obviously, bonused by the EOS, I'm guessing, and just played havoc.
We should just start calling these happenstances wets instead of damps. They're wet.
I like it.
So the next match, the Afterlife goes on, while the Coven goes home. I guess even with their my experiences of them, they were not able to get through that wetness. Outbreak Dot versus No Holds Barred is coming up, with Outbreak having banned out the Gyla and the Golem, and No Holds Barred banned out the Celestis and the Armageddon. It's almost as if they saw the match before it happened.
Yeah, but those are both really good bans from both sides that don't really say much.
No.
Like the Celestis, as we saw here, is devastating to any type of comp. The Golem is pretty good. The Gen's fairly strong.
Yep.
So both good bans that don't really say anything about your setup, which is one of the things that you want to think about when you're making these bans. Am I giving too much away with what I'm banning?
Right, showing your hand by banning something that's obviously going to counter your setup, and that tells the other team what your setup roughly is going to be, so that they can find an alternative way to counter it. You know, I think No Holes have performed pretty well so far, and I really expect them to continue that. But Outbreak, they're not a bad team either, so I think it's going to potentially be a close match here.
Question for you: have we seen any Marauders today at all?
I don't think we've seen any today. We saw some yesterday. They were pretty common yesterday, but not today.
Do you think we'll see any more of them?
I think so.
Okay.
I think we'll definitely see some Marauders. They're really strong against damps, and damps are like, now we're in day 6 of the meta, and everyone's saying, okay, you know what? We knew damps were strong all along. We're just going to show them now because we need them.
But with Golem banned, what does that leave? I mean, obviously leaves 3 other ones, but the only one I think we've seen other than the Golem has been the Paladin.
Yeah, we've seen a Vargur. We've seen
We
one
have seen a
Vargur.
Vargur? Okay.
That
At
didn't
least
do
one
too well.
Kronos.
Yeah.
One Kronos.
The Kronos in this format I don't think is...
The Golem is the best. It's ideally situated for it because obviously it can hit the entire arena, but I guess you could do it with the Vargur.
Yeah. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Seeing a lot more Ewar heavy support setups now, it makes sense that Marauders could make a return as that gets more popular, since they're
Very likely.
Or, you know, alternatively, pilot maybe start learning from something Waffles did effectively. Rookpel did it yesterday. Pull back and wait for someone to make a mistake. Wait for someone to come to you. That's another way to counter the damps. You know, if a team doesn't have great damage projection and you can pull out of range of their damage projection, then just sit at range out of their damage projection. Make them come to you. See if maybe they try a hero tackle. You can latch onto a frigate, kill it, and maybe get some sort of advantage out of that. So, I don't know. Maybe that's a strategy they're going to be looking at too.
Do you guys think we're going to see any drone teams out of these ones? So, I mean, the Gila was banned,
Yes.
which is actually a very smart move. Like, one of the strongest ships, one of the things we've seen all the time. It seems like teams are afraid to ban it because their best teams are Gila-centric.
Yeah.
So do you think we're going to see drones?
Ishtars, Vexor Navy issues, all open, all ships we've seen.
The Rattlesnake is also open. We
Yeah.
haven't seen a lot of that today, though. We saw some of it yesterday.
Typically, when we see the Rattlesnake, it's usually got the Gila support.
Yep.
So it's kind of, that almost is an implicit ban. You almost ban out the Rattlesnake by banning the Gila. But the Vexor and Vexor Navy issue, like I said, we've seen quite enough of that. So
We still have EOS's available, right?
that's also
Yes.
true,
Yeah,
yes.
So
yes.
EOS Ishtar comp wouldn't be surprising.
What are your predictions for this match? I myself am going with Outbreak.
I'm going with NoHo.
I'm waffling on this one. I circled Outbreak, but I...
Don't do that. They're out.
Yeah, that's true. But I think NoHo can do really well here. Like, they only had one really kind of bizarre match, and I think that was more of like the dice roll not going in their favor. So either way, I'm gonna guess. I'll just say Outbreak, even though I'm gonna regret it in like 5 minutes.
All right. Well, I'm going to switch because I believe I believe you more than you believe yourself,
Is there switching?
and go to NoHo.
Oh,
Oh, all right.
Yeah, I
Wow.
can switch before I have. Well, switching after bans, except bans didn't have anything to do with why I switched. So
That's
The bans didn't give
very-
anything
I
away,
think it's
so,
fine.
Yeah.
Well, we'll let Twitch chat be the judge of that, I
We'll
feel.
allow it.
While they pass their judgment on you, CCP Rise, let's just go into cyberspace space and see what they have for us.
Welcome back, one and all, to that beautiful vision of two rattlesnakes sitting on your screens. This is Outbreak versus No Holes Barred, and I'm CCP Fozzie, joined by Apotheny. And these guys have brought out some really cool setups. Outbreak with a double rattlesnake, Vulture, Scimitar, similar to the 8AF team that we saw the guys from Rote bring yesterday, but they've put in a lot more damps instead of the damage. So they've got double worm, but then triple mollusk, Talwar, and Merlin. Why don't you tell us a bit about the No Holes Barred team?
So NoHo gone kind of kicking it old school with this. We've got 3 Sleipnirs, 3 command ship, tons of links, tons of DPS. Great active tank with a Simi, 3 Vexors, and you can do lots of cool things with their mids. You got a Moa, you got 3 Jaguars, and a Raptor.
Yep, and we have confirmed that the Sleipnirs are autocannon fit. The rattlesnakes all have cruises, so everything's kind of fitting into what you'd expect. This is actually, this NoHo team is pretty similar to what we've seen in some previous tournaments where people would combine Sleipnirs with, say,
Match
Caracals.
teams and half the Outbreak team doesn't move.
Yes, so the Outbreak team started off very close. They put their big ships in very close, and they're waiting basically for the entire NoHo team to move past them, which is exactly what NoHo is doing. So we'll see who gets caught on the way.
Looks like
a
we've got
Sleipnir. The answer is a
jam
Sleipnir.
effects going on to the Mollusk.
The
but that
Sleipnir is dying.
What
The Sleipnir is
what?
dying.
What?
So yes, the Sleipnir ran right in past the rattlesnakes and died.
Yep,
They
looks
charged.
like,
They charged towards the Scimitar. Their goal was to move from the middle of the arena past the rattlesnakes. On the way, the rattlesnakes got the drones on them, and they just fell apart. Second
Yeah.
Sleipnir now is collapsing.
Well,
No
this
Holes
is-
is now moving to try to take down the rattlesnake, but it's going to be too little, too late. The Sleipnir is bursting through his ASB, but it's not enough. He's still taking armor damage.
Yeah, looks like the AFs of NoHo ran through the beginning. They got through a ton of webs on the different ships, but webs aren't anything if you don't shoot anything, if your DPS is dying.
Yeah, the Outbreak Outbreak team is doing a great job of getting damage on the ships. They screened very effectively with their big ships. We've seen some teams that screen with their smaller ships where they put the big ships back, put frigates up front, and then catch a couple of the enemy ships as they're moving in. But in this case, they actually screened with the Rattlesnakes and the Vulture. They just set those up right in the front, and the Geckos got on their target right away.
I think this is the key story. Look, we have both a jam effect and a damp effect on the Scimitar. We said before in the last match how powerful this can be, though now, forget that, looks like Outbait Rattlesnake is about to hit its armor.
Yeah, I may have spoken too soon about that Sleipnir for No Holes Barred, because he is pulling back and holding on pretty well. Meanwhile, the first Rattlesnake is taking a ton of damage here for Outbreak. Outbreak needs to keep this Rattlesnake alive long enough to take down the Sleipnir, which is exactly what they're doing. The Sleipnir went into reload, it's going to die first, so this is still going to be Outbreak in the driver's seat, even though they probably are about to lose a Rattlesnake.
Yeah, they probably are, but you know, they've lost, they're going to lose a Rattlesnake. What have they gained? They gained 2 Sleipnirs. They've gained a Jaguar and a Raptor. It looks like another Jaguar maybe dropping soon. Whoa, Kitsune of Rudy going down soon. Those are some powerful jams leaving the field potentially.
A little too late probably for NoHo, as we've got another Sleipnir dropping really quickly, and this Rattlesnake is still holding on. There he goes off the field right now. So this is the Scimitar for Outbreak doing a great job of keeping that Rattlesnake down long past when he otherwise would have died.
Maximizing the reps on the Sleipnir here, but it means that the damage that's going on the Jag is being ignored. Simi has to spend all his energy wrapping up the Slep. In the meantime, what would I assume is the support of Outbreak taking out No Holds Barred support means that there is
now damage applied to the NoHo Scimitar, very crucially. The Outbreak team moved off of the Sleipnir, which wasn't breaking. They got in, they forced the Scimitar in close. Scimitar is now dead. What they actually did was shoot the Sleipnir, dab the Scimitar. Scimitar can't get in range. It needs to move in closer before it can target the Sleipnir, and then you kill the Scimitar. Great target calling, great target switching from Outbreak.
And at the same time, we saw damping effects on that Simi for so long. It must have been so cap dry. Like, I feel so sorry for that Simi pilot this match.
Yeah, so the Simi now off the field for NoHo. This is really just, I think, a matter of time. The Simi, of course, now for Outbreak actually taking a lot of damage. So Outbreak got the Vexers over there to do some damage to him, and he is taking a ton of damage. I don't think it's going to be enough, though. They do have a big drone swarm following him. He's actually holding on pretty well because he's boosted up to a very high speed. He's got his MWD overheated, and he's outrunning a lot of these drones. The Vexer drones don't have the speed bonus, and the Scimitar is actually holding on really well right now.
And at the same time, the Slept is going down, going into structure, dropping field. Barrack is going down. That leaves NoHo with 3 Slept-ism versus an almost complete Outbreak team, dropping only the Rattlesnake and the Kitsune. A really strong showing by Outbreak.
It looks like for once, CCP Rise's gut changed, like the feeling that came over him was correct, and he moved correctly. Actually, no, sorry, he switched to NoHo, didn't he?
He did.
Oh, yeah, so never mind, he's back to his normal form. Outbreak, very dominant performance here. They're probably going to lose this Scimitar to the residual drone damage from the Vexers at this point, but it's not going to be nearly enough for NoHo. NoHo didn't bring a bad setup by any means. This is a very flexible setup. It's probably one they've trained a lot because it's one that a lot of teams will have known about for a long time. This triple Sleipnir with support from frigates and Tech 1 cruisers is something that's been a kind of a mainstay of tournaments, both in the Alliance tournament, and actually similar things have been run in the New Eden Open as well recently. So it's something that a lot of people have practiced with, but also most teams will know how to beat.
Personally, I'm just thankful we didn't see any Gilas this match.
Well, that's because they were banned. So I'm sure these guys would have loved to, but yeah, there's no way to bring him in this match. And of course, the Vexer now taking more damage. The Scimitar, I said he was going to die a couple times, but actually he's proving me wrong. He's managing to get his speed away from these drones, very ably keeping himself alive. He's got his reload through and has got some boosts in. And now the last Vexer dropping for No Holds Barred. So it's just a MOA left.
Typically a very tanky ship, but
not nearly tanky enough.
It's just going to die so quickly here.
Yeah, it's tanky for a
It was trying to take out this poor Morlus of Jack Star, but you know, the reps got on it. He's not going to pick apart any more on it. It looks like it's going to be a 100-26 victory for the Outbreak team. Congratulations to them. I'm looking at my sheet. They will be going on to play the Ministry of